Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? It's gorgeous out there this morning. Being out with the dog this morning, it's absolutely lovely. How are you doing? Happy Friday, everyone. I'm fairly happy that it's Friday, but I'm nowhere near as happy as our friend Mr. Muirhead, who says, good morning, guys. Happy Friday, everyone. Last day of work for 2 weeks. Scott Plant tomorrow, which is a bit of a highlight in itself, and then Tenerife on Sunday, an even bigger highlight. Well, enjoy Scott Plant, enjoy Tenerife even more, Gary. Very, very jealous. Howdy, Gary, Jim, and any other plant porn addicts, and happy Friday, all. Good morning to you, Dan, as well. Good morning to those that are watching over on Instagram. They're actually flashing before my eyes at the moment. Can't look at that. It'll give me a strobe effect stroke or something like that. Weirdest thing happened yesterday. Weird. Completely out of left field. I was notified that I've been nominated for a UK Construction Week award as a role model. Now, first of all, they don't tell you, if any of you are responsible for nominating me, and apparently it was more than one person, but if it was any of you, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. For about the first minute after that notification arrived, I was cock-a-hoop. I was riding on clouds. I was walking on sunshine. I was filled with the joys of spring. I really was. Really quite honoured, quite touched that somebody actually thought, role model, that Mark Anthony fella, he seems all right. Now, obviously, whoever did the nomination doesn't know me at all, because I am many things, but I am certainly not a role model. However, when I then sat back and thought about it, now bearing in mind this is an industry that employs somewhere between 2.5 and 3 million people, and I'm sat, if the industry is that, I'm sat kind of there. I wouldn't consider myself to be part of it. I'm allied to it, but I don't consider myself to be part of it. So we've got an industry of 2.5 to 3 million people, including some of the smartest engineers and architects and demolition contractors and ground workers and plant hirers. How far down the barrel do you need to go before you think, he'll do? Yeah. Jim Turner says, wasn't me, Mark, but you're definitely a worthy candidate. Fair play to whoever put you forward. Yeah, bizarre. Listen, I know I'm sounding like I'm being self-deprecating. The way that this works, I've been put on a shortlist, and in order to find out if I've progressed beyond the shortlist, I need to go to an event in London that I can't attend. I'm actually not going to be here. For some reason, something's just gone wrong with my screen. Yeah, I can't actually be there, so I won't know if I've made it onto the shortlist or the final list until they send it through. I'm not even sure what I'd do with it. If by some weird quirk of coincidence, if all the other candidates died overnight, role model. As I say, I am being self-deprecating to a degree, but to a degree, it's like, surely in an industry of 3 million people, there are others out there that are better suited to the role of a role model. Dan says, well, I'd argue that. I think you're a great model, Mark. Thank you very much indeed, Dan. It's very kind. Yeah, listen, I don't think even my children would describe me as a role model. Other than as a model of, well, don't do that. Look how he turned out. Don't be doing that. But yeah, I'll keep you posted on all of that. It's a distraction, but it's a welcome one, I have to say. What's going on my screen here? Something's going horribly wrong. That's it. It's got it back all neat and tidy. Yeah, loads of stuff to get through today. I told Dan just before we started the show, I wrote today's morning monologue 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and went to bed, got up this morning, read it back and thought, well, that ain't very good. So I've done another one. I've gone back to square one, and then I've done a fresh one. Jim Turner saying, "You don't need to be at the coalface. You champion our industry on a daily basis." Cheers for that, Jim. Yeah, I guess I do. But yeah, it's I've spent 38 years being told, "Keep your nose out, you irritating twat," and then to be. Actually, we consider you to be a role model. It's a weird turnabout. Chris Ford says, "Morning, guys and dolls. Just awaiting the cooking lorries. They're about due. Fantastic stuff." And Mark Whiting. Well, we now have our checkered flag. Is it a checkered flag? Is that the end? I don't know. I don't follow Formula One. What's the flag they wave to say we can go? Whatever that is, Mark Whiting is our version of it. So I've just pressed his button. Very quickly, in addition to all of that stuff about role models, I told you yesterday I've written a piece about fraud. I'm going to be talking about it in this show, but the full article is now available. It's in the WhatsApp group, should you wish. Well, not the actual article isn't in the WhatsApp group, but the link to it is in the WhatsApp group. Gary says, "It's only what you deserve, my friend. Turning up every morning and talk about issues and failures in our industry that other people are scared to talk about." Well, on that basis, I will gladly take the nomination. Thanks, Gary. And Mercy Johnston is here as well. Good morning. Good morning. Let's crack on, shall we? I think we have a proper. Oh, and Dan saying 100%, Gary. Oh, you lot. Shucks. You're too kind. Let's have a bit of this. It is Friday, the 24th of April. Gary doesn't need me to tell you what the date is because he's at Scott Plant tomorrow and he's off to Tenerife on Sunday. But for everyone else, it's the 24th of April. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, the authentic voice of the global demolition industry, and apparently a role model. Wow. In today's show, we're taking a walk around the Komatsu PC220 LCi-12. I'll probably say this again when we get there. My personal belief, listen, they're not paying me to say it, and I don't have to operate these things, but my personal belief is that the Komatsu PC220 LCi-12 is currently peak excavator. That's not to say I wouldn't take a Volvo excavator or a Liebherr excavator, but the PC220 LCi-12 peak excavator. We'll be showing that to you in just a moment. Bradpave going into the UK now. Bradpave gets its hands on the latest Liebherr dozer. Anyone fancy a Hamm roll? No, misread that. It should be Hamm Roller. Yes, we're doing a walk around of a Hamm Roller as well. And in our latest stop on our voyage to Verona, we're hooking up with Hyundai to see what they have in store. Plus, in today's edition of Mark's Morning Monologue, Pride Undermined. It's got nothing to do with gay pride or any other kind of pride. It's just personal pride. Pride in this industry. When you look at our accomplishments and our contribution to the country and all that goes with it, and then some hairy ass scallywag comes along, commits fraud, and we all look like ourselves. That's what... See, role model. That's what today's morning monologue is all about. So stick around for that if you possibly can. We've had a couple of comments over in the chat. That Komatsu kit looks amazing, and I like the exhaust through the body, says Dan. Unfortunately, I won't make Scott Plant. A lot to do, and I'm in Winchester next week. Winchester's lovely. Love a bit of Winchester. Lovely shopping centre in Winchester. And there's an Ivy restaurant. I mean, I quite like the Ivy as a restaurant anyway, but the Ivy in Winchester, really, really nice. Really nice. I don't suppose you'll be spending a great deal of time in the Ivy, but you get the idea. So with all that being said and done, let's crack on with a bit of Cat. And then once we get Cat out of the way, we'll go and speak to their biggest rival, Komatsu. Yeah, I saw this on Instagram. Dan Cullen, as you are well aware, most of you will be aware, he's working down in Plymouth, and he was out on the coast yesterday talking about the lovely smell of seaweed and salt. There is a special, that ozony smell. They're really, not when the tide's fully out, but you know when the tide just starts to go out and you've got that fresh seaweed laying on the beach. That's a lovely whiff. Totally agree with you. Bradpave apparently is a massive steel user and a wonderful guy. Good. Well, we'll be featuring them in just a moment. New dozer and ADT here now. A 65 dozer and a 300 ADT, all from McHale plant. Well, all hail McHale. Good to see they're doing the job. The new JCB X series are up with the best now. I wouldn't argue with that. Certainly the 370X, I think, is an absolute peach of a machine. But I say this all the time when I talk about the development, particularly of excavators, it seems to be. That, you know, for example, Caterpillar will come out with a new excavator and it will be the pinnacle. It's got all mod cons. And then someone like Liebherr will look at that and go, wow, we'll accommodate all of those mod cons plus a few more. And then Hitachi will come along and say, well, we need to match Hitachi because otherwise, need to match Liebherr rather, or nobody will take us seriously. So we've incorporated all of their features plus a few of our own. My personal belief is right now, particularly as of Bauma, which is where I first saw the Komatsu PC220. As of Bauma, certainly, it's the pinnacle, in my opinion. And listen, JCB are up there, Hitachi, Komatsu, not Komatsu, Liebherr, Volvo, all of the manufacturers are up there. But my feeling, having seen that PC220 up close and personal, was that they'd kind of inched ahead. Don't take my word for it. Let me show it to you.
Hi, I'm Mark Boyes. I'm the National Business Manager for Komatsu, and I'm here today with our brand new 24-ton excavator, the PC220 LCi-12. The new PC220 LCi-12 has both 2D and 3D machine control, which helps the operator cut to grade the first time. Coupled with the 2D and 3D machine control, this new model has integrated payload. This also allows the operator to indicate payload to target for trucks and cycles, improving efficiency and material movement on site. You pair this with the new hydraulics in the machine and you get a faster, smoother and more powerful operation. We have a new ComVision camera system, which is 360 degrees now, and it detects people. So as you walk into the work area, if you're within 4.5 meters, the operator will get an indicated sound, not only in cab, but outside of cab. From previous models, as you can see behind me, getting on and off and maintaining the machine, we've improved it by having access to ground level servicing items, also ground level fill for our AdBlue, as well as we've also got side ingress to get up onto the cab to maintain 3 points of contact, which allows for far safer operations when servicing the machine. You can also see behind me that we've got at least 50% more visibility out of the corner of the cab compared to our previous models. Not only do we have that, the cab itself has gotten larger in size, which means it's going to be more comfortable and less fatiguing for the operators. We've given the operator functional joysticks that allows them to not only change the buttons and how they interface with the machine monitor panels, not only for machine control, payload, but audio settings, it also allows them to set the speed of the work equipment. One of the new improvements that we've made inside the cab is new seat adjustments. We can now tilt our console to 3 different individual positions, raising and lowering the joysticks to make them more comfortable. We've also updated the joysticks for more ergonomic control, which also includes a number of different buttons and rollers that can be configured for the user's preference. As we now have electric over hydraulic control, we also have the capability to set the speed and response at which these joysticks react to improve efficient and effective work equipment movement. So with our new Machine Control 3.0, we now have 3D boundary control. As you can see here on the screen, we have an identified boundary at the front and also at the top of the machine. This will prevent the work equipment from engaging through these boundaries. So if you are working in and around bridge abutments or around power lines, we can now configure this so that the machine, even if it were to track, slew, or put the work equipment near that boundary, that will prevent it from going through. Our standard specification that we get out of factory now includes our isolators, both starter and battery, as well as jump starters. We also have maintenance-free batteries, as well as easy swing-out cooler package for cleaning and maintenance. The PC220 LCi-12 is the most technologically advanced machine on the market. For more information, reach out to your Komatsu representative today.
Talking of excavators, Dan says, question. It's not really a question, it's more of a statement, but here we go. 220X is a fantastic machine, be hard to beat the Cat 320. The Cat 320 is okay, but I believe JCB and Kobelco and Komatsu outrank Cat at the moment, he says. Gary says, Paul from Bradpave. Yeah, Paul Bradley from Bradpave. Very kindly sent me a really nice T-shirt some time ago. I need to dig that out. He sent us a case with the steel wrist from. I would have thought it'd just come out of the factory. It was that clean. Wait till you see the dozer. That's exactly the same thing. As much as grade control is good, how would you learn if you don't do it without eye to ground visibility and hand control? It's something we touch on quite a bit, and I do still think we need the foundations before we actually hand over at least partial or total control to machines. Totally agree with you on that one, Dan. Still waiting to see one in the UK. They're definitely here. Just trying to remember where I saw one. I'll think about that. Now need a big cab for that guy. Well built like Komatsu. I'm sure he's just big boned. Very good explanation. Komatsu are great for that. They really are. Yeah, they really are. And I have to say, I sometimes go to like major exhibitions like ConExpo, Bauma, Intermat, Samota, a couple of weeks' time. And all of the major manufacturers will do their displays, and they have Matey on the microphone. And I've got to be honest, most of them bore me to tears. But I will happily sit there and listen to the Komatsu one for half an hour, because they get the pacing right, and there's a bit of audience participation, and they one of the things they do very well is they switch presenters, so you're not listening to some bloke droning on for hour upon hour. It's I'll do a bit, hand over to the excavator expert, and then we'll hand over to the dozer expert. So there's constantly something going on. All good stuff. Yes, we've just talked about Bradpave and their new Liebherr dozer. I'm going to show it to you after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, listen, we've already bigged up Bradpave. You don't need me to big up Liebherr dozers, because we know they are elite. Bring the two together and you get this. Yeah, pretty damn smart. I'm not going to mention the fact that I saw a spelling mistake on the video. They've called Bradpave Pradpave. But I'm not going to mention that, because that's not the kind of guy I am. I'm not pernickety at all. We'll be back after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Mick Norton from sun-clad Wakefield has just joined us. Morning, Mick. Good of you to be here. Dan saying the first Komatsu 115 dozer is in the UK is en route here. I'm hopefully able to get pictures of it if it lands tomorrow. Well, be sure to hold your phone that way round, Dan, and send them to us. I'd love to feature them on the show, and they would look better in that orientation. Liebherr always seems to go the extra mile with all their equipment. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They, in actual fact, listen, I'm obviously interested in the machines. I wouldn't be here otherwise. But I kind of get exposed to the brands above and beyond. And in terms of the way that the various manufacturers interact with the press, I would say JCB are very, very, very good. Liebherr are very, very, very good. Komatsu, Volvo, very, very, very good. And then after those, no, Bobcat, very, very, very good. After that, kind of starts to tail off a bit. Yeah. Let's take that out of the way because we are, it's time for a ham roll.
Hello, my name is Tim Kowalski. I'm the Application Support Manager for Working America and the Hamm Rollers. Today we are here to talk about our Hamm HD Plus 120i Voyage-2 HF. That is a high-frequency compaction machine. What makes this machine special is the drums itself. We have taken the technology from our soil side, which have Vio drums, where we can vibrate and oscillate or run static with the same drum. We put that technology into our asphalt machine, and now we have dual Vio drums, but we added one more feature. We added a high frequency. So now we can have dual vibration at high frequency. We can have dual oscillation. We can have a combination of vibration or oscillation. So there's a total of 9 different settings of this machine. So with the advantage of having dual vibration at high frequency, we are the same as other high frequency rollers. It gives us that other option to get better compaction, be able to make a little bit faster speeds with our roller, cover a little bit more area, but still maintain the proper impact spacing to get the compaction we're looking for. The dual oscillation feature really comes to play on certain mixes that are really hard to compact. We can actually manipulate that material and get it in better position. It also is really good for looking at doing joint densities, where we're not destroying the cold side of the mat with oscillation and getting a nice tighter fit compaction on the joint itself. The special feature about it is the automatic function. The machine decides which drum is going to be vibrating or oscillating depending on its direction. When the machine is going in a forward direction, the front drum vibrates, the rear drum oscillates. When it goes in reverse, the drums switch automatically. The operator just has to press the start and stop button. With this machine, customers are able to get better compaction with fewer passes and save a lot of money, be able to get better production, look at those bonuses that they're trying to get. When we also look at compaction, how do we measure it? We have a system now we call Smart Compact Pro. We take a ground penetrating radar and mount it underneath the machine, and we have a screen up by the operator where he can actually visualize the actual density. We calibrate this system to a gauge. Now the operator can see exactly what he's doing pass to pass, what he's increasing or decreasing his density in the field. We put the system in the center of the roller so that when the roller is compacting on one side of the road, it is actually measuring the wheel path density, which is the most critical place we want to look at measuring the density. This machine is one of a kind. It's the only one in the industry. If you want to learn more about the roller itself or our Smart Compact Pro, please go to our website at workingroup.com and find out more. Or call us, we're available. Get in touch with your dealers, find out what they have available, and we can help you out. Thank you.
Very smart. Used to do the PR for Hamm Rollers back in the day, back in the 90s. About 1,000 years ago, with a lovely lady named Natalie Verboven. Absolute beauty in every sense of the word. Lovely to look at, but a smart cookie as well. Let's have a look. John is becoming a bit of a regular. I need to allocate him a button on my stream deck. But John, you refer to yourself as John the Ball, and I'm happy that you do that. Would you care to explain why? Are you a footballer? Are you a baller? Do you have an enlarged ball? Why are you John the Ball? I think the time has come for you to reveal, or why are you John the Ball? Gary Muirhead says we had a thanks for that, Gary. We had a Liebherr up here for a wee time, and I was on it for a week. Really very impressed. I'm sure you were. Jim Turner says, love Hamm Rollers. Not as fussed with Komatsu diggers, but if they'd like to lend me one to prove me wrong, I'm game. Komatsu? McHale, if you're listening, there's a beardy fella here wants to have a bit of a play on one of your machines. Hook the fella up, would you? Or maybe, Jim, get yourself along to Hillhead. I'm fairly sure you're going to be there anyway, but I'm expecting the fine folks at Komatsu to be there, out in force as they normally are. We've got one more film to bring you, which is with our Italian friends from Hyundai. Back after this. Right, okay, just that gives me a perfect opportunity to bring you up to speed. I'm going to Samota. What are the dates of it? 6th to the 9th of May. I'm going to Verona. Back for a week or two, and I'm going to JCB. Back for a week or two and going to Bobcat in the Czech Republic. Back for a week or two and going to Volvo in Sweden. I'll keep you posted. I'm literally, one of the things I'm going to do this weekend is sit down and put all of this into my diary. But yeah, there's lots of travel coming up, which means I will miss a few shows, but it also means that when I get back, I'll have plenty to talk about, which is never a bad thing. Anyway, yeah, focus is first of all on Samoteur, as they say in Italian parts. One of the companies that we've been hooking up with while we're there is Hyundai, and this is what they have up their sleeve for Verona.
So we are present in the fair in a very important way. We will have excavator, crawler excavator, wheel excavator, dumper, wheel loader, mini excavator, and skid steer loader. If I have to underline the three major products that we are going to show, is definitely the 30-ton machine, next generation machine. It's called HX300. This is the third machine that we launched on the Italian market after the first launch of 360 and 400. Now we are going to launch the 300 machine. And in the coming weeks, we will have also 230 and 260, so 23 and 26 tons. Okay. The machine is part of a family called the Next Generation Crawler Excavator that we designed in the past year. And we want to show to the Italian market this novelty in the market. The main feature of this machine is very good fuel consumption, reduce of the cost of ownership, and all the control of the machine is done by electric joystick versus hydraulic. This is, I think, it will be the start of the show. But beside that, we will have also the new skid steer loader that we are going to launch in Europe during these days. Italy is the first market in Europe for the skid steer loader, so it's a very important product. And we will show this machine also in our stand. This is the second novelty that, in my opinion, we will have on the stand. The third one is that all the machine will be, compact machine will be equipped by Hyundai attachment, mainly bucket and quick coupler, because we understood that if you want to be present, especially and grow in the compact market, we need to offer to our customer not only the machine but a full range of attachments. So we start from the basic attachment that are bucket and quick coupler, and then we'll expand the portfolio of this attachment that we would like to offer to our customer. All our machines are equipped with a system that is called iMates. That is a telematic system that can control the machine not only on the position, but on the errors or let's say the hours of working. So this means that using this system, we can always check what the machine is doing, if it's working well, if it's working wrong, if there is something that has to be changed or replaced, and which will be the interval of the maintenance. So this is something that is in our machine since a few years already, and will be also implemented in the next generation of the machine. This is the most important things in my opinion. The second thing that is equally important is the level of the safety of the machine. So all our excavator, but also the big wheel loader, will be equipped with a system that inform the operator about the presence of obstacle or people around the machine. This system can just advise the operator to be careful or block the machine if the person or the hostile is too close to the machine. So this is, I think, is another chapter that can be related with the technology, because the machine became always more full of technology.
Full of technology. That's what we're talking about most of the time these days. Yeah, looking forward to catching up with the fine folks at Hyundai in just a few weeks' time. The chat has been going berserk while I was away. My cousin's missus works for Komatsu. She couldn't understand why I wasn't a fan. I can't understand it either. As I say, particularly with the PC220, the PC210, the -12 versions, I do think you have another look. Mick says the roller operator has always been grossly underestimated as the key ingredient to successful compaction operations. And he goes on to say many blacktop mats often end up undercompacted, overrolled, due to the operator having never been taught the actual physics of the operation. I wonder, it's kind of, this is a bit of the industry that lives on the periphery of my kind of field of vision. I'm not, I'm certainly not a compaction expert. If Mike Wolf is here, which he may well be, I'm sure he could tell you a lot more about it. But we were talking earlier about the idea of grade control and that kind of thing, and the need for an operator to fully understand from a visual and from a feel point of view before they allow technology to take over. I guarantee that will be exactly the same over in the compaction field. You still need to know what you're doing. Yes, ground penetrating radar and all the clever stuff that goes with it can give you feedback, but I do think you need to understand, as an operator, you need to understand the physics and the fundamentals before you surrender everything to technology. Now, Dan has asked a very good question, and I have a good answer on this. How come plant sellers, when they have open days, barely do it on weekends? I think all open days and shows should be weekend focusing to introduce individuals to machines and get kids interested. I was involved in this, and I can tell you, I mean, the answer to your question is I've no idea why they don't do it. And here's why I'm saying that. We used to do the PR for Leverton, H. Leverton Limited, down in Windsor in Berkshire. They were the Caterpillar dealer for most of the south of England. And they used to have open days, not just at Windsor. They used to have one up in Spalding and there are other destinations as well. But they used to have an open day at Windsor, and they do it on like a Friday afternoon or a Wednesday morning, whatever it might be. And you'd get 30, 40, 50 people turn up, dribs and drabs. People were arranging their diaries. Well, I'm going there. I'll pop in for half an hour and have a quick look around. And then some bright spark, and I can promise you it wasn't me, said, why don't we do it on a Saturday morning? And we'll get in a bouncy castle for the kids, and we'll have a barbecue, and we'll have a clown doing balloon animals. And so they turned basically a vague selling opportunity into a family fun day. And their 30 or 40 or 50 attendees became more than 500. And I'm not talking about 500 because the kids were there. I'm talking about 500 families, because, wife and kids would go off and they'd have a hot dog together, a bit of candy floss, have a go on the bouncy castle, meet the clown, get the balloon animal, while Dad was over there talking about his next excavator. In answer to your question, Dan, I have no idea at all why they don't do it, because let's be absolutely honest, and I'd say the same about exhibitions. When you go to ConExpo, runs over to a Saturday. Bauma runs over to a Saturday. Intermat runs over to a Saturday. Samota doesn't. But all of these major exhibitions run over to a Saturday because they all understand that we as people in this industry are phenomenally busy. And yet when you look at Plantworks and Hillhead, middle of the week, so you struggle to get time to go and do it. it's a further example of that disconnect from the industry to those that would leech upon it. You know, if Hill had any sense, they'd swap Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to Thursday, Friday, Saturday and be inundated. Jim Turner says, roads are nowhere near as good as they used to be. This is because not many firms will sit a heavy dead roller on the tarmac as it cools. Vibing, a semi-liquid doesn't lock together like a heavy dead roller does. I can't remember the last time I actually saw a dead roller. I know they still exist, but literally haven't seen one in years. Incorrect operation is a major contributory factor in the pothole nightmares that we all face on our local roads and lanes. See, why not? Why not? Stefan, I'm going to come back to you on that, but why not have a guarantee on roads? You know, you've employed a contractor to come along and either pave or repave or repair a road. And, you know, like you have with the National House Building Federation Council, NHBC, I think it is, they have a guarantee that your house will be hunky-dory for the next decade. Why aren't we doing that with road people? You've paved that road, you fixed the potholes. We would now like a signed guarantee that within 10 years, if that starts to fall apart, crumble, collapse, potholes emerge, you're going to come back and fix it free of charge. Why aren't we doing that? The way things are, they wouldn't let kids in under 16. We need to be sowing the seeds at 10 years old. Yeah. Heads firmly inserted into our rectums, I would say. Now, Stephen Edwards says, in 19th of September 2026, there's a demolition day in the Netherlands, an open day taking place across the country at various demolition companies and project sites, an event for young and old alike, always held at the weekend. Is that right? Is that right? Now, taking place across the country. So this is not, it's not like I can go to Amsterdam and attend an event. It is literally demolition day. So the various demolition contractors will be hosting events. That's interesting. I mean, I must admit, I mean, I love the Netherlands anyway. Obviously, love bit of demolition. Is there some way, Stefan, that we could do something with that? I wonder. Love to hear from you. Roadworks always have a guarantee here in the Netherlands. Why don't they here then? Dan is going back to work, which means he's going to miss our morning monologue, but doesn't matter because part of it is based on my article about fraud in the industry. I've put a link to that article in the WhatsApp group. Dan, if you get 5 minutes to have a cup of tea later in the day, you can read the article even if you miss the monologue. But speaking of the monologue, it is that time. It is time for me to draw a veil over this sorry old nonsense. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very soon. I'll be back on Monday. My eldest son's girlfriend is running the London Marathon this Sunday, so I'm going to be up in London watching her hopefully limp across the finish line. I'll take some photographs probably. If you have the time and the inclination, I'll be back after our morning monologue business. Dan says I'll read it on the train home. Good stuff. Stefan, I'll drop you an email regarding Demolition Day. Thank you very much. And CPCS and NPAWS could do more to educate their candidates with roller operations other than a cursory glance at the basics. Many are taught to just drive the roller. Of all the machines that we have in our armory as an industry, the roller is one you don't just drive. I watch a lot of daytime TV, or I used to. I don't do it so much anymore, but I used to watch a lot of daytime TV, and it's quite surprising. The likes of your Jamie Olivers and your Gordon Ramsays consider themselves to be good cooks or chefs, but as soon as things involve anything for dessert, i.e. baking, they tend to take a bit of a step back because baking is not cooking. It's a science, you know, whereas your Jamie Oliver, well, I'll throw a bit of that in, bit of that, and it will taste delicious. Yes, absolutely fine. If you're cooking yourself a tray bake for your dinner, if you're making a cake, that doesn't fly. There is a precise way of doing it, the right amount of flour, the right amount of eggs, the right amount of sugar, the right cooking times, and so on down the line. Compaction is baking. It is exactly the same. It isn't just a bung some bitumen down, pop up and back and forth on it, and it'll be fine. It really isn't. And Dan says, have a wonderful weekend, guys. Stay safe and safe journey, Gary. Yes, safe journey, Gary, indeed. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be back immediately after this. In terms of job satisfaction, there can be few industry sectors that can hold a candle to demolition and construction. The pride in removing a derelict or dilapidated tower block from a skyline, clearing the way for regeneration and renewal. Building a house where families can raise their children and create memories together. Constructing a skyscraper in which a company will prosper and grow, providing employment for hundreds or even thousands of people. Building a school where future generations will learn, or a hospital where the sick will be cured and newborn babies will be welcomed into the world. Even paving a road carries millions. Even paving a road carries millions to their place of work or home to their loved ones. To look at this industry's accomplishments is to see a nation transformed. Construction is not merely a builder, it's a massive engine of British prosperity. It contributes roughly 7% of the UK's GDP, a figure representing over £140 billion in annual output. But those numbers tell only half the story. It's the human element that truly defines us. This industry employs over 2.5–3 million people, roughly 1 in every 16 workers in this country. Every year we take on thousands of apprentices, providing a lifeline of skills to young people who might otherwise be left behind by an increasingly academic world. We don't just build skyscrapers, we build careers. We provide the roof over the heads of our fellow citizens, the tarmac that connects our cities, and the specialised environments where our children learn and our sick are healed. Think of the London 2012 Olympics, a moment of pure, unadulterated professional and national triumph. The Olympic Park wasn't just a sporting venue, it was a masterclass in demolition, land remediation, and rapid construction. We took a contaminated industrial wasteland in Stratford and turned it into a global centrepiece, finishing on time and within the revised budget. It proved to the world that when British construction industry is given a clear mandate and a unified goal, we were second to none. And yet, for every Olympic success, there's a scandal that makes us bow our heads in frustration and shame. How do we reconcile our capacity for brilliance with the absolute shambles that is HS2? It's become a white elephant, a project so bloated by shifting scopes, management failures, and bureaucratic indecision that it's become a joke. What began as a visionary leap for national connectivity has devolved into a cautionary tale of how to burn through billions of pounds of taxpayers' money while achieving nothing. But the rot goes deeper than mere mismanagement. This industry has a dark side, and we all know it exists, but too often it's discussed only in hushed tones behind site sheds, corruption and unethical practice. The statistics are damning. Studies suggest that the construction industry remains one of the most susceptible to bribery and fraudulent activity. Whether it's bid rigging, price-fixing cartels, or the kickbacks that grease the wheels of procurement, these practices undermine every honest firm trying to do a decent day's work. The Office of Fair Trading has in the past levied fines exceeding £120 million against dozens of firms for collusive tendering. More recently, surveys by professional bodies like the CIOB have indicated that a significant portion of professionals have been offered a bribe at least once in their careers. It's a cancer that eats away at our professional pride. It inflates costs for the public, stifles innovation for smaller, more honest players, and stains the reputation of the millions of hard-working people who just want to build something they can be proud of. And it's a problem that is not going away. Despite record-breaking fines and high-profile exposures, the industry appears trapped in a cycle of illegal behaviour. The scale of the penalties handed down in recent years is unprecedented. In the demolition and construction, in the demolition and asbestos removal sector, a 3-year CMA investigation culminated in 2022 with 10 firms being hit with fines of £60 million. Those firms illegally colluded to rig bids on 19 separate contracts worth over £150 million, including high-profile sites like Oxford University and Selfridges. But the rot doesn't end at demolition. In the groundwork sector, VP and MGF were slapped with fines exceeding £15 million for operating a 6-year cartel, sharing confidential pricing data to artificially maintain high prices. In roofing materials, 2 of the UK's largest suppliers, Associated Lead Mills and BLM British Lead, were fined a combined £9.5 million for carving up the rolled lead market. A price-fixing ring was uncovered in the precast concrete drainage sector, resulting in a massive £36 million penalty. Similarly, suppliers of galvanised steel water tanks were fined nearly £2 million for their roles in a long-running price-fixing ring. And perhaps the most significant financial settlement occurred in 2025, when 7 of the nation's largest house builders, including Barrett Redrow and Taylor Wimpey, agreed to a staggering £100 million settlement following a probe into the exchange of sensitive information. And yet, despite these astronomical sums totaling hundreds of millions of pounds across the sector, the behaviour has not been deterred. It simply moved further into the shadows. The public purse remains the primary target, with active investigations currently looking into bid rigging for school construction and the supply of essential concrete admixtures. However, the authorities have seemingly realised that financial ruin for the company is not enough of a deterrent for individuals. A new aggressive partnership between the CMA and the Serious Fraud Office signals that the gloves have finally come off. Investigators recently arrested individuals suspected of a £44 million conspiracy involving the Eco4 scheme. And that wasn't just a simple regulatory breach. It was an alleged attempt to defraud a government initiative that was designed to aid the most vulnerable in society by submitting invoices for work that was never undertaken. What is clear is that the Serious Fraud Office is no longer content to let regulators issue fines. It's sending a clear message. When financial ruin is no longer a deterrent, the threat of a prison cell must take its place. And in doing so, it might have just helped restore the industry's pride. There's a longer article on that SFO stuff over on Demolition Insider as we speak. I feel very passionate about this. As an industry, we do so much of which we can be rightly proud. There are the obvious highlights. There are things like the London 2012 Olympics. When you look at the magnificent skyline of London, the Shard, the walkie-talkie, the gherkin, and so on. These are things that we can look to. Look how good we are. Look how great we are. Look at the design. Look at the engineering expertise. Look at the quality. Look at the vision. And all the time that's going on, you know full well that somewhere in the background, in the shadows, there are people that are taking that reputation and dragging it through the mud, through greed, basically. The fact that 10 members of the National Federation of Demolition Contractors were hit with fines of £60 million back in 2022, I perhaps naively thought that would make the industry sit up and take notice. 60 million quid is a lot of money. We're not talking a slap on the wrist here. We're talking about an absolute kick in the balls. And yet, fines of £60 million haven't been enough to provide the deterrent to make others think again. Just obviously, I hate the fact that people are skewing the playing field. An honest company is likely to struggle because there is a cartel in operation that are divvying up contracts. honest, hard-working, keep their nose clean, do a good job, you're at a disadvantage before you even begin. But then going beyond that is this notion of the industry-wide pride. We can look at London 2012. We can look at the Shard. We can look at some of these projects that the industry has done and say, well, look at that. Look, what an amazing achievement that is. But rather than being able to stand up and say, construction is brilliant, look upon all that we have achieved, you know full well that there are people that are basically acting in a criminal manner, lurking in the background, dragging down the entire industry, the industry's reputation. What do we got in the chat here? Mick Norton says, dissatisfaction in construction employment with its long hours, fragmented teams and high-pressure deadlines will not be everyone's cup of tea. No, it won't. See, here's another point, which I didn't allude to in that article, or in that monologue, but I'm going to allude to it now. When I was choosing my career, the first time around, I never envisaged becoming a journalist. That kind of happened by default. But when I was looking at my potential career, I did it very much in partnership with my parents. I sat down with them and talked about my hopes and aspirations of being an accountant. Can you imagine me as an accountant? But yeah, that was my original plan back when I was about 14 years old. And I discussed it with them at length. I then discussed it at length with my careers advisors, who advised me not to do that, to do something more in keeping with what I'm doing now. And again, I discussed it with my parents. Imagine being young Johnny. A kid's called Johnny these days. He's probably young Josh now, isn't he? Young Josh goes home to his mum and dad at 14 years old and says, Mum, Dad, I need to have a serious chat with you about my career prospects. Okay, Josh, sit yourself down, have a cup of tea, tell us more. Well, I've been looking at all of this, Mum and Dad, and I've decided that I want to work in construction or demolition. And Mum and Dad look at each other, they look at Josh and say, are you fucking mental? And I think the first thing that would bother them would be the danger. We do unfortunately kill and maim and injure more than our fair share in this industry. I think there would be concerns over the cyclical nature of our employment. If you're busy, you're fully employed and everything else. If the industry isn't busy, you're twiddling your thumbs at home on the sofa waiting for the phone to ring. But then over and above all of that, none of the cases of collusion and bid rigging that I spoke about, none of those happened in secret. They happened out in the open, or the CMA and the SFO have made sure they're out in the open. So Josh's, imaginary Josh's mum and dad, we don't want you to get maimed or killed. We don't want you to be unemployed for 6 months of the year. And we'd really prefer it if you didn't work in an industry that was so clearly corrupt. I don't think that is why we're failing to attract young people into the industry. I don't. I think it's I think it runs deeper than that. I think we've done a very poor job of selling ourselves to younger people, the careers prospects and, the job satisfaction of taking down a dilapidated building or building a Shard or an Olympic Park. I think we've missed that opportunity. I think there is a growing feeling among young people that they want to be working in an office, in front of a computer, with free espressos and paninis on hand, and so on down the line. I think that's part of it. But surely, if I'm 14, 15, 16 years old, trying to make decisions about my future, and I'm reading the newspaper, death on demolition site, death on construction site, corruption on demolition site, corruption on construction site, make you think twice, wouldn't it? And I keep coming back to this nature of reputation. It's like we take 2 steps forward and then somebody pushes us at least one step back, as a nation. And I use London 2012 for a good reason. It was a difficult job against the clock. We delivered on time, on budget. And you want to say, look at what we did. When you look at other Olympic bids around the world, countries or cities have been bankrupted by the arrival of the Olympic torch. We weren't. If anything, it boosted the nation. That's what construction in the right way can do. It can boost the nation. And just as you're standing there, collecting the accolades on a job well done, the entire industry taking both demolition and construction, because there was a lot of demolition involved in that, land remediation as well. And just as you're standing on the podium, waiting for somebody to put a gold medal around your neck for accomplishment in demolition and construction, the news breaks that actually you were doping. I'm doing the athletic analogy here. You were basically cheating. Now, there's no suggestion that anyone was cheating to do the Olympic Park, but the industry itself, there is cheating going on. So for everybody that stands up that says, look at what we've done, full well there's somebody in the background. Brown envelope. Jim says, a mum and dad with their head screwed on should agree that site life is great. Well paid, great hours, good crack, subsidised transport, sometimes. It's a much better life and pay than most office jobs. The problem with that, Jim, and I agree with every single word of every sentence that you said there. I agree with that. The problem we've got, I think, with that is you only know that if you're on the inside. Like, I'm a bad example, but I would imagine, you imagine, I don't know, your dad's I'm not even going to do that, but imagine average working class, middle class family, professional people as mother and father, and you go home and say, I want to work on site. If they haven't been exposed to the great hours, the great pay, the subsidized transport, and so on, you look at it and you say, it's filthy, it's dangerous, and by every conceivable measure, it's as bent as a bottle of chips. If you go beyond, if you actually set foot on site and you get yourself a hard hat, you get yourself your high-vis vest and your site boots, and you spend 6 months on it, maybe young Josh, we're going back to him again, maybe young Josh can go back to his mum and dad and say, you were wrong. Love you to death. You've raised me in the best possible way, but when it came to choosing careers, you were wrong. Look, I'm earning decent money. I've got a great bunch of mates. I'm traveling the country. I've got transferable skills that could take me up and down the country or even overseas. I've got all of this going for me. But you only get to know that if you actually step across the line onto a site. Up until I started writing about it, demolition and construction was just a filthy, hazardous thing that happened to other people. I'll be honest about it. I know differently now, but I'm not unique in that. Unless you are family or, cousins or whatever it might be, closely allied to people that are in construction, you'd have no concept of any of that. Why is HS2, Sizewell C, Hinkley Point C, and Lower Thames Crossing rarely hit time and cost targets? Because I think it's a double-edged answer. I think it's a two-pronged answer to that. I think our procurement at government level is broken. It's broken. It has no real understanding of the realities of construction, and I think it's open-ended. Despite the fact that we know, if somebody says that's going to cost you 100 million, the government will allow 120 million. What they don't know is that the company that's agreed to do it for 100 million is actually planning to do it for 200 million, and they will find every single way and every single excuse that they can to ensure that they get their 200 million. So I think there is a deep an intrinsic failing at procurement level. But I also think, going back to our notion of corruption and collusion, I think the industry preys upon that ignorance at government level. And I do, when you think about some of the collusion, I mean, the CMA thing, it was magistrates' courts, police stations, and I think there was a school in there as well. In other words, it was the public purse, because full well that the public purse is being very, very, very poorly managed. I think that's the absolute truth. The types of fraud in the sector are endless. Inflated hours, fake labour agencies, collusion between contractors, preferred supplier corruption, fake training certificates, and card scheme misuse. Yeah, that's I think the word for that is litany, isn't it? Imagine. Has anyone ever seen these honest movie trailers? You watch a movie trailer normally, and it's in a world where, and Arnold Schwarzenegger rides in on a camel or something and saves the world. And in actual fact, the honest version is, a big bloke arrives with a gun, shoots 100 people, and despite the fact that the 100 people shoot back, he never gets hurt. And that. Imagine two billboards. Imagine two billboards. One from the industry itself. We built the Olympic Park. We built the Shard and the Gherkin and the walkie-talkie and Crossrail and the Channel Tunnel and all of these things. Look upon my works, ye mighty, and fall at my feet for all my accomplishments. And there, right beside it, is the absolute truth of the industry, which reads like that. The types of fraud in the construction industry are endless. Inflated hours, fake labour agencies, collusion between contractors, preferred supplier corruption, fake training certificates, and card scheme misuse, which doesn't even mention things like tool and plant and material theft. That's the reality. That's the reality. Dan says, have you heard anything about the Gatwick runway? No, I haven't. I would imagine when things start to progress, that will be national news. That would be my guess. It normally is. Again, public purse. And again, I think half the problem with this, going back to Jim, can't remember whose. Yeah, it was this one. This question from Mick. I think half the problem with some of this is the length of time that these projects take. If somebody says, we'll build that stretch of motorway for £100 million, and it turns out that it costs 200, 250, 300 million, by the time it's done, well, frankly, it's done. The road exists. There are cars on it, and it's done. It's too late then. It's absolutely too late by then. It's 10 or it's 15 or it's 20 years down the line. And future generations are like, didn't somebody say that was only going to cost 100 million? Was it 100 million? Because the bill's 300 million. If you have something done around your house, you have a new front door fitted, matey boy says, I'll do that for 200 quid. And then he tells you it's 600 quid. You go on your fucking bike, pal. No way. Because you've agreed it there and then, and 2 days later, he's here to do the job. With these protracted projects, it's open-ended, and they genuinely will find loopholes. Oh, we found a bit of asbestos. There's a bat roosting in, or we saw some bat droppings. Best be careful. That's going to extend things, so we're going to need a bit more money for that. Clay and weather and more weather and stuff, and so it goes on. Mick says the latest news from Gatwick's runway is that the UK government has formally approved the £2.2 billion Northern Runway expansion, but the project is now facing legal challenges from environmentalists, which is par for the course these days. But there you are. They're in black and white, right there. £2.2 billion. By the time we actually get around to building that, chances are I won't be sat here anymore. I shall be probably pushing up daisies somewhere. But 2.2 billion, somebody make a note of that. And then in 10, 15, 20 years' time, when that Northern Runway finally opens and somebody hands the government a bill for 4.5 billion, Say, that Mark Anthony bloke was right, you know. He was. He was a pillock, a role model, but a pillock, but he was right about that. That's where we are. Anywho, people, that will do us for today. That will do us for the week. I have many, many things to do, not least of which tidying this office up, because I've been so busy this week. I've just turned it into a bit of a pigsty. So I'm going to love you and leave you. I'll be back on Monday at 10 o'clock for yet more of the same. I'm sure we'll find something to bitch and moan about by then. Until then, everybody have a fantastic weekend. I'm not singling him out, but I am going to say very quickly, Gary Muirhead, enjoy Scott Plant, enjoy Tenerife. Dan Cullen, safe journey back home. Jim Turner, Mrs. Auntie was bragging to her about her son that's a teacher, saying how much he gets paid. My missus told her I make more than him, less hours, no student debt, firm's van, and no gobshite kids to deal with. Yes. It's a fair point, Jim. It's a fair point. Have a great weekend, mate. And Stefan Edwards says, you've got mail. It looks like I have. I've just seen something blink into my inbox. Stefan, thank you for that. You too, enjoy your weekend. I'll be back on Monday for more of whatever the hell this is. See you then.